It's hard to put into words what it feels like to lose a person who was your whole world. When I say I lost my husband, Andrew, I'm not just talking about the loss of a spouse, a companion, or a partner. No, what I lost was much deeper. I lost my sense of self. I lost the one person who had been my rock, the one person who knew me better than I knew myself, the one who would always be there, no matter what. Andrew wasn't just my husband. He was the foundation of my life. We built everything together, our home, our family, our dreams. He was there through every challenge, every joy, every quiet moment. And when cancer took him away from me, it felt like my entire world crumbled. 7 years. That's how long it's been since I last saw Andrew, since I last held his hand. 7 years of waking up each morning to an empty house, where the silence is so thick you can almost feel it pressing in on you. Every corner of the house echoes with memories of him, his favorite chair in the living room, his shoes by the door, the kitchen where we shared countless meals and laughter. Now, it's just me. Alone. For the longest time, I didn't think I'd ever want to love again. What was the point? I'd had everything I could ever want with Andrew. My children, my grandchildren, they filled the spaces in my life. They kept me busy, they gave me purpose. But nothing could fill the hole Andrew left behind. I tried to keep moving forward. I tried to convince myself that I was fine, that I didn't need anyone else. I threw myself into my family, into the small joys of daily life. But inside, I was empty. And as much as I loved my family, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Then, one day, on what seemed like just another ordinary afternoon, something happened that I never saw coming. It wasn't planned. It wasn't expected. I was at the mall, of all places, picking out a gift for my youngest grandchild. I wasn't thinking about anything other than getting home and continuing with my day. But life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. And that's when I met him. John. He wasn't anything like I expected. He was young, much younger than I had ever imagined myself with. He had this energy about him, a quiet kind of confidence, but also a sadness in his eyes, like he carried a weight that no one else could understand. At first, it was just a brief encounter. A simple "excuse me" when we bumped into each other in an aisle. But something in his smile, in the way he looked at me, something stirred inside me. It was the first time in a long while that I felt something other than the heavy ache of loss. It wasn't love at first sight. I wasn't ready for love. But there was a connection. Something so unexpected that it made me pause. And as I walked away from that moment, I realized something. Maybe I didn't need to close my heart off forever. Maybe, just maybe, there was still room for love, just in a way I hadn't imagined. Before we dive deeper into this story today titled "Widower Found Love Again with 34-Year-Old," I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this journey and give this video a thumbs up. Your support energized us for sharing these intimate stories, and remember to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future episodes. This is where I've lived for the last 30 years. It's a quiet place, tucked away in a peaceful neighborhood, just the way I like it. There's a calm here that you won't find anywhere else. No rush, no noise, just the soft sounds of birds in the morning and the wind rustling through the trees. This house, this garden, they've always been my sanctuary, a safe haven where I can find solace in the stillness. The world moves fast, but here, in this small corner of it, time seems to slow down. It's the kind of place where you can feel the weight of the years, yet they pass without much notice, quietly fading into the backdrop of your life. But after Andrew passed, this place, our home, felt different. It no longer had the same warmth, the same rhythm. It's hard to describe, but it felt like something precious had been lost, and nothing could ever replace it. Andrew's chair. That's what I call it. It's the same worn armchair he'd sit in every morning, with the newspaper spread across his lap, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Sometimes, he'd just sit there in silence, gazing out into the garden. It was one of those simple moments that spoke volumes. I'd be in the kitchen, busy with breakfast or a cup of tea, and there he'd be, content in the quiet of the morning. We didn't need to fill the space with words. It was the kind of peace that comes with knowing you're not alone, even in silence. That's how we spent our mornings, together, in a comfortable, shared silence. Those quiet moments felt like a language all their own. But now, all I have left of him is the chair. And a lot of empty mornings. It's not the same anymore. I still sit in the same places, I still have the same routines, but it's not the same. There's a hole in the silence now, a space that's impossible to fill. You'll find traces of Andrew in all the little things around the house. His gardening tools, the ones he used with such care, those old shears, the rake, the gloves that were always in the shed. He'd spend hours in the garden, his hands deep in the soil, his face content as he worked. We'd plant flowers together, year after year, trimming the bushes and pruning the roses. It was his way of making the world around us more beautiful. And I always loved watching him there, knowing that what he was doing, tending to this little corner of the earth, was something we shared. It felt like we were building something together, even if it was just a garden. Now, I'm the one who tends to the garden, but it doesn't feel the same. I still plant the flowers, trim the bushes, weed the flower beds, but there's something missing. It's like I'm doing it for him, but without him. I try to imagine him beside me, his gentle hands on the tools, his steady presence guiding me. But all I have is the memory, and it feels like I'm chasing shadows. The garden doesn't bloom the same way anymore. It's beautiful, yes, but it's quieter. Empty. I suppose I've become a creature of habit over the years. My routines have become my comfort. There's something safe about knowing what's coming next. I take the same walks every morning, just as I did when Andrew was still here. I visit the same places, talk to the same neighbors, and spend time with the children and grandchildren. They're the bright spots in my life now, the ones who fill my days with love and laughter. But as comforting as these routines are, there's still an undercurrent of emptiness. There's something missing, something I can't quite shake. It's predictable, yes. Safe, even. But it's also lonely. And deep down, I've convinced myself that maybe this is just the way life is now. I had my love. I had my family. I had everything I needed. Or so I thought. Click subscribe and remember to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future episodes. For years, I convinced myself that love was something that belonged to the past. Andrew and I, we had a life full of love, laughter, and dreams. We built a family, a home, a world that was ours. And once he was gone, I thought that part of me died with him. How could I ever find someone who could make me feel the way he did? The way Andrew made me feel, so cherished, so loved, like I was everything to him. That kind of love doesn't come around every day, and I couldn't imagine ever opening my heart to someone else. My children, they tried, of course. They wanted me to be happy, to have the kind of joy they saw in other people. They'd tell me, Mom, you deserve love again. You deserve to be happy. They encouraged me to meet new people, to go out, to try again. But how could I? How could I love someone else when Andrew's memory was so strong? When every corner of this house whispered his name, when the scent of his aftershave still lingered in the bathroom, when his laugh echoed in the walls, still so vivid in my mind? It felt like a betrayal. Every time I smiled, every time I laughed, I feared it meant I was forgetting him. How could I ever let someone else fill the space that had been so perfectly his? I couldn't imagine giving my love to anyone else without feeling like I was dishonouring what we had. The love we shared was irreplaceable, sacred. And how could I love again when it felt like that love still lived inside me, wrapped around my heart, keeping it closed off from the world? I had to keep my heart locked away. I had no room for someone else, not when Andrew's love still lived inside me, still shaped the way I saw the world. I told myself I was fine, that my children and grandchildren were enough, that they filled every part of me that needed filling. But inside, I knew there was a part of me that had stopped living. I had become a shadow of the woman I once was, alive in body, but not in spirit. The routine had become my crutch. Every day, I went through the motions, but I was merely existing, not truly living. I didn't need anyone else. That's what I kept telling myself. I was fine. I was whole. But in truth, I wasn't. I was merely passing time, moving through my days without truly feeling anything. My heart was a sealed box, one that I couldn't, and wouldn't, open again. Then, one day, it all changed. It was just another ordinary day. I was out shopping for a gift, nothing special, just another errand to fill the day. The way my life had been for the last few years, predictable, routine, without any real surprises. And I wasn't expecting anything to be different that day. But sometimes, life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. I walked into the shopping mall, looking for something for my granddaughter. I didn't plan on anything happening. I didn't think anything would change. It was just another task to cross off my list. But then, as I wandered through the store, I bumped into him. John. He wasn't someone I had planned to meet. He wasn't someone I had expected to feel anything for. He was younger, almost a generation younger, and the thought of someone like him even being interested in me seemed laughable at first. But there he was, smiling, his eyes kind and open, as if he'd known me for years. And in that moment, something shifted in me. I wasn't sure what it was at first. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something else. Something unfamiliar. It was hope. The tiniest spark that made me realize that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as far gone as I thought. Maybe there was still room in my heart for more than just memories. John didn't just show up in my life by chance. In a way, he was exactly what I needed, even if I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know how our story would unfold, but something in that moment told me that I wasn't done with love, that love wasn't done with me. And that was the beginning of everything. The beginning of rediscovering a part of myself I thought had died. Click subscribe and remember to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future episodes. I won't pretend it was easy at first. Introducing John to my children, blending our worlds, it wasn't seamless. There were moments of discomfort, awkwardness, and miscommunication. John, who had his own past and his own losses, felt like an outsider at times. Especially when my son, who's only a few years younger than John, made offhand remarks or teased him, unknowingly adding to the tension. At first, I could see the uncertainty in John's eyes, the doubt that maybe this wasn't going to work. It wasn't just about me and him, it was about our families, our lives, coming together in a way none of us had expected. But slowly, bit by bit, we found our rhythm. Like any relationship, it took time, patience, and understanding. We stumbled, we fumbled, but eventually, I could see it in their eyes. My children could see how much John meant to me. And how much I needed him. They could see that this wasn't some fleeting moment, some quick distraction. No, this was real. And in that quiet understanding, things began to change. We've had our fair share of awkward silences and challenges. His children, my children, each one bringing their own histories, their own stories, their own uncertainties. There were moments when I thought maybe we wouldn't make it. His children, especially, struggled with the idea of me being in their father's life again so soon after Chloe's passing. My own kids, despite being supportive, sometimes found themselves torn between their love for me and their worries about how John might fit into our family. The dynamics were tricky, messy, and complex. But as the days passed, something beautiful began to unfold. I watched my children slowly open up to John. They began to see him, not just as my companion, but as a man who genuinely cared for their mother, who wasn't just here for the fleeting moments of joy, but for the long, quiet ones too. The moments when you need someone to simply be there, without saying a word. Slowly, they recognized that he wasn't trying to replace Andrew. He was trying to be part of something new, something healing. And that made all the difference. It wasn't perfect, no. There were still moments of uncertainty. Still moments where I wondered if we were doing the right thing. But love, true love, rarely is perfect. It's messy, it's imperfect, and it's all the more beautiful because of it. We found our own way. Through shared meals, laughter, even quiet moments where words weren't needed. We learned to communicate in our own unique ways, finding joy in the little things. Slowly, we built something neither of us expected, but something we both desperately needed. A family, of sorts. A second chance, not just for me, but for John too. The chance to build something beautiful after both of us had lost so much. The chance to feel loved again, to share a life with someone who saw you, not just for who you were, but for who you could become together. Sometimes, life gives you more than you ever imagined. I never thought I'd find love again. I thought that part of me was gone. But here I am, living proof that love doesn't have an expiration date. And neither do second chances. We've built a life, one full of hope, tenderness, and understanding. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth every step. And I wouldn't change a thing.
Life doesn't always go as we plan. I spent so many years thinking that love was something I'd never find again, that my heart had already been given, and there was no room for anything else. But John showed me something I'd forgotten, that love can bloom at any age, in any season of life. It's not about how old you are, or what you've been through. It's about finding someone who makes you feel alive again, who brings a spark back into your days, someone who sees you, not just for who you were, but for who you are now. I never expected this. Never thought I could love again, but here we are. And in a way, I feel as though the love I lost hasn't really gone anywhere. It's always been with me. Sometimes, it just needs the right moment to return. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with anyone who could use a little hope. Life has a way of surprising us, and sometimes the best stories are the ones we never expect. I'd love to hear from you. Comment below and share if you've ever experienced an unexpected love story of your own. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories that remind us that it's never too late to find love, happiness, and new beginnings.